Good evening, and welcome back to the Lost Begotten TwoWitnessNews type thing where
It's more like a
my wife looks taller than me this time. But like, my head's so gigantic, it kind of gives it away.
Because for a change, you're slouching and I'm sitting up straight. Don't move. You're gonna hurt.
I look like a giant, dude. Anybody want a peanut? There you go. Hey, you come closer. Hey, you're a giant. I'm a little tiny person. How about that? Okay,
Sorry, I didn't mean
that's
to
a silly ass way to start another serious video.
Yeah.
We were just talking about a serious subject that,
pissed me
let's
off.
face it, people's perception of it is kind of
very askewed.
fucking silly.
Very, very askewed.
But we have more cigarettes and we have fresh coffee, so you know.
You have more cigarettes. I'm seriously really trying.
Let's talk about some Hebrews. I mean, wait, what? I already made that joke earlier today in a video talking about coffee with the Hebrews thing because
men are supposed to make women their coffee. It says it in the Bible. Hebrews.
Yeah, this is true.
Hey, you're Lily. Are you gonna make America cute again? No, you're gonna bid me adieu.
Okay. So, we were talking about how, you know, just a little light conversation about the Holocaust.
You know, a pre-dinner conversation.
Yeah, just a little appetizer.
Little of Kira just walking in the door from work and pre-dinner, and let's talk about the Holocaust.
Because the thing about the Holocaust is, don't talk about the no. Talk about only the Holocaust of the Jews. Okay,
so how this really got started is we're actually in the middle of watching a video that I started ranting and raving during, and thus causing us to pause, and Sean here going, hey, that's good, let's make a video. Hold that thought. But this is the David Parkman show that we are watching, and
we're not so much talking about that, though.
Well, no, but I mean, this is what got us on the topic. There's a former neo-Nazi is trying to explain why white supremacists love Trump so much.
From my generation, a fellow former neo-Nazi.
Right. And so this is what started this topic, because he brought up about why Hitler would do the Nazi salute.
Right.
As a fuck you to all the Jews who died in the Holocaust. The 6 million Jews that died.
She just goes, she just outbursts, that pisses me off when people that, I'm like, what, the love the man? She's like, what? Well, when you raise your hand like that, that's in Europe, that's called the love the man.
No, and okay, don't misconstrue me being pissed off at the...
Explain where it went from there for a second. Okay, that's where we left off, dear.
Sorry, I'm jumping. Yes, it's been a long day.
That was a big jump.
Sorry. I just wanted to explain beforehand, before people turn off the video, because I'm angry about what was said. It's not necessarily what was said, but what was not said.
Try to minimize your uses of the word the Jews, and, you know, it should be okay.
Well, what it is, it's like, okay, whenever anybody talks about the Holocaust, anybody who is more than a C student in school, and I'm not knocking anybody who wasn't, I don't, grades, you know, whatever, some people are horrible test takers, I don't care, but, you know, when people talk about the Holocaust, it's all about the 6 million Jews that died. Yes, I will acknowledge 6 million Jews were murdered in the Holocaust, okay? That happened. 3 million gypsies were also killed in the Holocaust.
For the actions of false Jews, no less, which makes it all the more tragic, in our opinion.
Homosexuals.
Right.
Yes, homosexuals were killed in the Holocaust. Remember the little pink triangles that they used to have to wear? Gypsies were all carted off. My family, okay, I have family that died in the Holocaust that were not Jewish. And the fact that they get no recognition whatsoever for it, because it's all about the Jewish people that died in the Holocaust, the 6 million Jews that died, and nobody ever wants to bring up anything else, really gets under my skin. And I get it. They were the majority. They had the greater number. But you can't exclude anybody else that was murdered. Just because it was 2 to 3 million gypsies. Okay, that's almost half of the Jews that were killed. That's not a big enough number for you? And again, I'm not knocking. I know, and I am acknowledging that 6 million Jews were killed. That's not what I'm angry about. Well, I mean, I am angry about that. Nobody should have been killed.
And in large part, that false Jew framing of all Jews was responsible and it was largely related because, like today, they're being blamed for being the ones protecting the minority immigrants and the gays and all that good stuff.
Oh my god, this is sweet.
It's very much a history repeating it type scenario going on today. And while we were taught about this in school, I remember photographically in the history books that I learned from, in high school history at least, the history teachers were specifying. And even so much that Miss Franzoni and Mr. Pesce, I remember both of them talking about how people only focus on the fact that the Jews, while kind of brushing over the minorities. But what happens is the false Jews who caused it to begin with are now in control of what's called media, that thing that replaced our free press that we used to have. And media controls the conversation that we have about it now. So when they talk about the anniversary of it, so when everything's pandering to the media, that's all that gets remembered.
Actually, you had Franzoni for world history?
Yep.
Okay, I had AP World History with her, and I made her when we stopped on that topic.
The college prep.
Yeah, the college prep class. I made her stop and delve more into it. Yes, I made her stop writing on her board. Oh my god, the notes.
The notes.
I had like 3 notebooks for that class that was just completely filled, front and back. Just no lines, skip, no, just...
15 minutes of dictation every day.
Minimum. Sometimes it was the whole class was just dictation.
Yeah.
But you know what? I learned so
on
much.
average, though, because sometimes we didn't.
But
sometimes we didn't.
I learned so much in her class, though. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I learned so much that I didn't know. But I made her stop when she was teaching our class. Remember, I graduated 2 years after you. So, I made her stop and delve into the minorities. I was like, hold up.
Yeah.
I was like, you can't stop there. But yeah, no, I made her go into it because I just, if you're going to talk about the Holocaust, don't just brush over it. If you're going to talk about it, fucking talk about it. It's just, I mean...
I can't remember specifically, but I'd be willing to bet that if I've had like a recording of my life that I had done the same thing. Probably more briefly in passing than you did. Like, don't forget the other ones.
No, I mean,
what other ones?
The
gays, the gypsies,
but I mean, this for me, it's been my whole life. Every time I hear somebody talking about it, I get offended because I had family that died in the Holocaust, and they don't get acknowledged because they were Jewish.
I wouldn't say I got offended. I got compulsive. Like, no, hold on, because not that I'm claiming any form of intellectual superiority, but as a former skinhead, those are the kind of things that you know about the Holocaust, and part of the rage against the Jews, being a confusion between the actual Israelis, the actual Hebrews, the actual Jews, and the false Jews. It's all intentional confusion.
I'm sorry if you're going to talk about I just don't just brush over it. I mean, it was a big chunk of history. Lots and lots and lots of people died for absolutely no freaking reason.
And then there's the related things that Americans in large part don't even know about. And that's actually partly because we just didn't fucking know about. And it wasn't until after 1991 that we even had a chance to know. But we were too paranoid of directly allowing Ukrainians into this country. So we've still only kind of slowly just trickle down knowledge has taken effect. Meanwhile, media will not take any part in telling you about the other things. And that's the pogrom that was committed by Stalin against a lot more Jews than were killed in Germany. And what's called Hollendor, which You want to tell your little story about that? How
Well, Stalin essentially stopped all food from going to Ukraine. Ukraine was part, after World War II, was part of the Soviet Union. It didn't, become its own country till well after that. Well, the Ukrainian people who lived in Ukraine, their food supplies got cut off, and they literally starved to death. What was it, 1.4 million people starved to death? Women, children, just died from starvation, literally, because they had no access to food in the wintertime, and they froze to death and starved to death. But you don't hear about that. I post about it on Facebook every year on the anniversary, and it's guaranteed every year that I post it. Somebody either sends me a message or posts on there, well, what's this all about? How come we've never heard of this?
and not just starved to death. They took their grain.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna eat it.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all aren't.
But, that's not talked about. The Armenian genocide isn't talked about.
Especially by the Young Turks, considering that they're named for one of the militias who committed it.
And that Anna is Armenian.
Mm. Yeah. Some... And this is what's a shame about how the Chekas have influenced alt-right. That is, KGB agents that specialize in doing so have influenced neo-Nazism and original Nazism and Banderism, which caused division, which aided in the conquest of Ukraine to begin with, which basically amounted to Ukrainians and Jews killing each other in Ukraine, which was mostly Ukrainians killing Jews. Okay, but they were like literally goose-stepping like Nazi-type Ukrainians. All right, and it wasn't a majority of Ukrainians. There was like these fucking militias. And there's just all kinds of weird shit that was going on at the time. Divide and Conquer does that. It's happening here. So where was I going with that? Do you know?
No. I'm tired.
I know. It's a fucking long several days.
Yeah.
So, you have the neo-Nazi influence being caused by basically Russian radio programs and actual foot soldiers who spread propaganda, flyers, leaflets. We even saw the flyers and leaflets pop up again during the invasion of Crimea. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
What was it though? They had the Jews must leave or something like that. Was it? And it was like the Russians had spread leaflets claiming that it was the Ukrainians spreading leaflets telling the Jews to get out. Meanwhile, the Russians were the ones who wanted the Jews to get out. Like crazy shit. And you have to be able to understand that level of crazy shit and see it in Crimea, see it actually unfolding to expect that kind of stuff happens in reality. It's really not something that you'd expect when getting taught the normal status quo version of history. But they've supported that same neo-Nazi strain all the way throughout history.
So this is all in Ukrainian, but this is the flyer that was sent out in Donetsk.
Yeah.
That was requiring all Jews to quote unquote register.
Oh, great. And that happened about a month and a half or 2 months after the one I was mentioning that came out in Crimea. That was to frame the remember the one that was to frame the Kiev people of being Nazis.
This was
to justify the intervention in Crimea.
This was an anti-Semitic flyer that was distributed to Jews in Donetsk, Ukraine on Passover in 2014. On Passover.
And I remember the convoluted coverage of that. They tried to blame Kiev for distributing those flyers to try to set up the Donetsk People's Republic. Meanwhile, that kind of shit was actually happening in Donetsk People's Republic. I mean, there's not just gulags down there. There's slave camps.
Sorry, I'm trying to see if I can find.
All right, so anyways, the reason why I thought it was worth talking about this is just to point out exactly how clueless we've become because of the same people that seem to have helped Donald Trump get elected by dividing us on all ends, by keeping Democrats, even to this day, from saying, hey, we won the popular vote, and making sure to mention that in every conversation about the Electoral College, actually pointing out what the Electoral College exists for. If you've noticed, anybody who talks more and more about what I'm talking about, they get to say their piece one time. And meanwhile, all the other talking heads get to come on over and over again and cover for what's happened to this country. It's a damn shame. And people really need to wake up to what's been going on, about how deceived we've all been about history in general, and understand that as a country, we are not immune to this. Our founding fathers knew that. We've been at war from the people we escaped as refugees from since this nation's inception. And that's why it's the right thing for us to do to take on refugees. Which, by the way, thank you to Angela Merkel in Germany. I didn't think I was going to be saying this anytime soon. Thank you, Angela Merkel in Germany. Because those Yazidis and Christians and Mandians that I was telling you about, that Trump was criticizing Hillary Clinton for wanting to get in this country because to get those people out of the country where they're in, you have to call them Muslims. Okay? Angela Merkel has just taken on a very similar number of people from the exact same place, and it's been acknowledged that most of them are Yazidis. So, fist bump to anybody who prayed for that. Boom. Don't punch your TV or phone, or, unless you really need a new one.
Becca, punch your phone. Inside joke. Sorry. Very inside joke. Both.
Now you're thinking about watching this video on yours, aren't you? Gee.
I'm thinking about bed.
Yeah. So anyways, I guess that's all, right? Is that all? Anything? Did I make a point?
Remember that the Holocaust was not just about the Jews, please.
And take that as a lesson to how disparate the reality is that's presented and hammered into your brain on a daily basis from what's really going on in the world. Because one's bullshit, and one is what you need to make your decisions on. And that's why we need to get Hillary Clinton in office before it's too late.
Yeah, let's say today is December 14th. So we have 5 days until the Electoral College votes. 5 days.
If the Electoral College doesn't ratify Hillary Clinton as president, it needs to be disbanded, according to the Constitution. It's violated the Constitution. It has violated its purpose. It has completely usurped its responsibility, derelicted its duty. Ew. I said duty.